So I've actually been out here for a little while now, working on getting the second front fender figured out. Now I did myself a favor when I worked on the other side, and I took a bunch of the measurements that I was using to get that fender well into the right place over there, and I wrote some notes down here, I wrote some notes down, took some measurements on the other fender arch so that when I got to this side, everything would go together really easily. So, for the last little bit, I've been double checking those measurements and using them to put this thing together. Yeah. It's not working. At all. No idea why, but when I make my center points and stuff all match up on this side, when I measure from the back of the fender to the arch, like to the inside of the arch, it ends up in a completely different place. So I can't use any of my measurements that I originally took, so I'll be able to get it in the right place anyway. But man, I thought I was doing myself some favors, and they failed completely. Step one is I've got some cuts to make. We got to get this arch out of the way before we can start fitting the arch at my feet. Pretty bummed about this. If I had cut just a little bit less off, I wouldn't have this problem. Over here, I didn't have that problem. It overlapped just here in the corner. Nowhere else, but it did overlap in the corner. But unfortunately, that's not the case on this side. So what I may do is actually get a patch and just rebuild this little corner here of the fender. Then I can overlay this and cut and butt it down into that. But I can take my time really fitting this piece nicely so that they blend together. I think that might make it go better. We step back away from it, looking at the rear as well. It looks pretty good. So visually it looks nice. Alright guys, so I've been putting in some work here on the fender. Same stuff you've seen before, so I wasn't recording a lot of it. I pulled this fender off to really get behind it and clean up some stuff. Down in this corner, there's a lot of rust, and there's actually some pretty big dents. So I was kind of hammering on those, and then I hammered clean through. And I knocked another hole in it, just where the rust was so deep, it had punched all the way through the fender. So unfortunately, I've discovered where I thought this was going to be easier, there's a lot of work this fender is going to need. I hammered up this little piece that you can see fits pretty nicely in that corner, because this corner is all rusted out under there. This is the corner brace that sits right here inside this fender, and it is basically completely destroyed. So I'm going to have to make up a new one of those, and that's going to be pretty challenging because I've got to make it up in a good enough shape that I don't alter much the shape of this, or that I alter it in such a way I can bend it back where I need it. All that damage down at the bottom that I was showing you means my best option is just going to be a new piece of plate under here. We've got a bit of the same kind of warping and denting that we had on the other one where it's been fighting with the door. So there's still going to be at least 2, if not 3 more pieces that will fill in this entire front corner. I've got some weirdness going on right there. What the heck is that? I don't know. Let's find out. Where's a hammer? It's just like this big lump sticking out. Huh. It is just a hard rock hit, I think. So I'll just have to hammer and dolly that back in as best I can. We'll be good there. I think I'm going to start with that patch. So while I was getting that all welded up, while it was cooling in between rounds of welding, I just went ahead and did the cut and butt on all of that. However, one thing I was slightly aware of, but is worse than I had realized. Come on, phone. There we go. Is the body filler here. It looks like there was a hard line creased into it, but the body filler gets pretty thick. So unfortunately, I thought maybe I could just ignore that, scrape a little more over it, and buff it all together. But because of the way it affects the metal right here, which right here is where the 2 pieces will connect together, I'm just going to end up grinding all of this body filler out of here and doing some hammer dolly work on this to clean it up and get the shape I need so that I can then actually properly connect it to the wheel flare. So that fender is off. We've got it over here now. Stripped all the loose little pieces off. And if you look across here, I mean, it's really hard to see in the camera, but this kind of tips in and then back out. So this isn't a really good transition. So I'm just going to spend some time with slapper, dolly, etc. and just try and make sure all of these transitions are all really nice, so that as we weld it together, a lot of the big problems we can run into from all of that shape are already solved. Crikey! Well, as silly as it was how I put that together, it actually worked out really quite well. Yeah. You can see here that the curves are pretty much the same. This line comes across decently straight. It might have a bit of a downward angle on it, but we can tap that around a bit. And then, come on. I plan to go back and weld an edge into here, so that will thicken that up just a little bit. But my gap isn't impressive anywhere, so really, that's not the biggest deal. There is a big old flat spot here and a kick out here, and there's a lot of damage to this door. So there's definitely still a lot of work to be done along there. But overall, when I push that into place, the curve through that lower section right there looks really quite nice. And then I just need to build the bottom extension that will go down to, oh, you guys can't see any of that. I just need to build in the bottom extension that attaches to that bolt to hold this all exactly where I want it. So yeah, I put that in a really silly way, but that worked out awesome. I'm super excited by how well that worked. Oh, that's awesome. Making good progress on this. I've been kind of burned out on the Fender, but I was really feeling it today, and I'm glad I was, because that all went really well. And so far, my shape along here all visually looks quite nice. So now I just need to work on welding slow so I can keep that shape and not have to beat the crud out of it to get it back into it when I'm done. But knowing me, I'll get impatient, and beating the crap out of it is exactly what we're gonna have to do. I don't know what's next. Should I start welding it, or should I finish building all the pieces? I don't know what I want to do. Well, I didn't film all of it, but I've now got every freaking piece of this Fender completely in place. All of the repairs are there, all of the adjustments are there, so we are ready to go on just a crap load of welding, grinding, hammering, welding, grinding, hammering, followed by probably a third round of welding, grinding, and hammering, and then I think this Fender will be ready to sit on the Travelall. I brought this on myself. Alright, well, there she be. Got all the various pieces assembled. So for the most part, it's just a whole lot of grinding now. This corner had tucked in on me some. I just used a slapper on it to round that back out. And overall, I think we've got a pretty nice shape. I think this one turned out better than the last one. Particularly along here, I don't have anywhere, along here, I don't have anywhere near the loss of definition or the curvature in this line that I got when I did that one. And what I ended up doing was just putting a lot less heat into it. And here we are, much grindings and hammerings later. I did have to get pretty frisky right through here. It really was not good. It even still now isn't great. This panel here ended up a little low, which just kind of sucks. So I'm trying to work my way along it and hammer it out some. But right here, I actually had to cut across and weld that back up. There's that panel. And that patch that we put in up top right there. So let's get this thing back on the Travelall real quick. Alright, so I screwed up the same not crazy important thing the exact same way on both Fenders, and I honestly have no idea how I've done this. So, if we come over here, it might be kind of hard to see. Let me grab this ruler here. See if we can show you guys what I'm looking at. There we go. So, underneath both sides, I had to put in a bolt point. Which, you can see that bolt right there. And that's just a panel welded to the bottom of the fender here and goes into an original Tahoe bolt point that also mounts the inner fender components. But when I welded that on, despite the fact that I thought I had fit it, if that's straight down the rocker, which you can see that is, then in a foot I've got an inch of twist in this stupid thing, and it looks terrible. So where I've got the hole under here is just in the wrong place at this point to do me any good. And over here on the other end, I actually had the exact same problem. Dang it, I forgot the stupid ruler. I did the exact same thing on this side as well. But on this side, now that I've put this fender on, whoops, what's going on here? You can see the problem. Well, I've got the fender in a bit too far, but it's much less exaggerated. There's still a bit of curve in right here because of how I mounted these panels together. Good night. Come on, focus. So I can work with that a little bit, but overall, it's a much, much, much straighter line. But underneath, I've already had to, I already fixed it. You can see this was the original bolt hole, and I had to drill another one over here. And then I just started tapping the edge of it to bend it up, so it just hugs the inner fender a little bit. So I'll finish pushing that around. But I've got that functional. It is now working. So I've got to do that same thing to the other side, figure out where my new hole needs to go, and get that drilled into it so I can mount the other side better. You know what? I totally forgot. There's another step I still have to take on that fender as well. This is the inner fender brace on the lower half. And somewhere... Crap, where'd it go? That's not good. Somewhere I have an inner fender brace for the upper corner that was going to need a whole bunch of work, but I don't even see that on this table anymore. Hope I didn't throw it out. I can't imagine me doing so. But it's definitely not on that table where I expected it to be. Crap, that sucks. Oh, man. I'm going to have to look around for that. But I've got to get this thing all ground clean, both sides, so I can weld that back into the inner fender. Well, guys, time-wise, these fenders have been a really intensive project. In real time, just because life and everything else, I've spent about 6 weeks putting that fender together at this point. I did this one quite a bit faster in real time, but overall, I've got at least 2 months of work that are into these fenders to get them finished. And that's obviously not 2 months, hours every day. That's just when I could get out here. So I've had to slow down quite a bit. Life's forced me to spend less time out here working on the Travelall than I have in the past. So these two fenders have actually taken a huge amount of time to get them complete. But we're there now. All the important stuff is done. I don't even think there's much in the way of this, that, and the other. They're ready to go. So on that note, with these fenders done, we're going to go ahead and finish this episode. Next up, we're going to figure out the hood. Yeah, the hood. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.